Hello, everyone. Mad Dog here. Hope that you have had a good week. My week hasn't been too bad for the most part. I did have to do the whole I quit smoking again. Again! I had to do that whole thing over because I bought a pack of cigarettes on Sunday but I did something last night that I probably shouldn't have done, but I smoked a number of cigarettes in a row and almost made myself sick, so I could get sick of the taste of cigarettes. Hopefully, it works this time. Anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I had a brilliant suggestion on behalf of one of my subscribers. I will give a shout out to him, Ethan Horwitz. Um, I am going to read or start reading. This is probably not going to be every week that I do this, so hold on to your seats. But it could be every week. I don't know. Depends on how I'm feeling. But I am going to read the first chapter of my novel, The Divided Night. Here goes nothing. Chapter 1. The cell should have been pitch dark, but when Thaddeus Alvarim opened his eyes, it was lit by a soft white glow. "Ah, Brother Thaddeus, you're awake at last." Sitting up and swinging his legs off the stone slab that, for the last month, had been his bed, Thaddeus was met by the sight of an ethereal figure, which was also the source of the glow, hanging in midair just inside the door of the cell. The figure was that of an elderly man dressed in a long, voluminous robe, and Thaddeus knew at once that he was looking at the spirit presence of a mage long since dead. "I'll be joining you in death soon, my lord," Thaddeus thought. "Who says I was actually asleep?" Thaddeus asked. The spirit presence smiled. "I do, for I was the one who helped you to get there." The smile broadened, and my spell lasted precisely as long as I meant it to. Thaddeus, who, up until he'd been locked in this cell a month ago, had spent the better part of his adult life as a holy knight of the Conclave, the order of warriors sworn to defend the kingdom's mages, had always found most mages to be full of themselves, and it didn't surprise him that they stayed that way even after they were dead. "Maybe I'll stay the way I am after I'm gone too." "What brings you to visit the cell of a condemned man, my lord?" Thaddeus asked. The spirit presence smile grew mischievous. "Perhaps to inform you that you are not as condemned as you've been led to believe. You see, as you slept, I took the liberty of unlocking the cell door." Thaddeus stared at the mage's spirit in confusion. "You did what?" "Unlock the door so you can escape. I also took care of the guard outside. You see, I need you to find someone for me." "Find someone for you? Who?" "Perhaps the only one who can restore hope to these lands. Have you heard tell of the Wanderer?" Thaddeus had heard tell of the Wanderer before. There were few in the kingdom who hadn't. The Wanderer was a mysterious cloaked stranger who, according to the stories, gave aid to travelers who found themselves in need while on the sometimes treacherous roads of the kingdom's eastern outskirts. The stories all agreed that the Wanderer was a fierce warrior who was also skilled in the use of magic, a rarity in the world these days, and that few foes could best him. No details of who the Wanderer was or where he had come from were known, and not everyone agreed that he was even real. "I've heard of him," Thaddeus said. "I don't think anyone can find him, though." "And why is that?" "Because I don't believe he's real. It's nice to think there might be someone out there looking out for the helpless, but after 20 years, I can't accept that we know nothing more about him than we did when the stories about him began. No one stays that well hidden, not even on the eastern outskirts." The spirit presence raised an eyebrow. "Not even there, eh? What about the Shadow Brotherhood? They terrorized the eastern marches for 40 years before their hiding places were all rooted out, and for most of that time, little to nothing was known about them. If a group of bandits like those could stay hidden and evade capture for 40 years, who's to say a single man couldn't do likewise for half that span? Besides, Brother Thaddeus, I know the Wanderer is real. I've sensed him." Thaddeus frowned. "You've sensed him?" "Oh, yes. His presence is a strong one, stronger than I've sensed in a long while." Suddenly, Thaddeus was struck by the idea that he'd met the spirit presence he now spoke to before. But when? "Forgive me, my lord, but have we met before? I was just struck by the strangest feeling that we have." Again the spirit presence smile was mischievous. "Many have met me, Brother Thaddeus. Few, however, ever have any memory of it. Not even the splinter of a memory you seem to have." Thaddeus pondered the spirit's words for a moment, trying to make sense of them. Then his eyes went wide. "That's impossible," he said. "You can't be." I can, and I am, the soul of the Conclave, something else you used to think wasn't real. The soul of the Conclave was supposed to be a manifestation of the Conclave's power, an entity conjured into existence and given sentience by the residual energies of all the spells that had been cast over the 500 years of the Conclave's existence. As Thaddeus had been taught, the soul watched over the Conclave, much as the Wanderer was supposed to watch over the eastern roads, and helped guide it, making sure the kingdom's mages never strayed too far from the path of light. No confirmed contact with the soul had ever been made, but every member of the Conclave had sworn that it existed. Thaddeus had always shrugged the idea of the soul off, thinking it just another maid's superstition, and now here he was, having a conversation with it. And suddenly he found himself feeling more than a little angry. "All this time you've been real?" Thaddeus asked. The soul frowned in confusion. "Yes." "Why didn't you do something then when the Conclave was being destroyed? Why did you let those monsters slaughter all the other mages and all of my brothers? Where were you when we needed you the most?" The soul didn't answer immediately, and its expression grew sad and far away. "I am not all-powerful, Brother Thaddeus, and the powers being wielded by those who did this to the Conclave were beyond me. I doubt anyone has seen their like since before the Conclave was founded." The soul looked at Thaddeus. "I did what I could, however. I saved you. And now I've given you the means to escape, the means to go and find the Wanderer and tell him what has happened. Maybe you won't find him. Maybe he will refuse to help. But I tell you this, he is the only chance the kingdom, and perhaps even the world, has left." For a long moment Thaddeus said nothing. The words of the soul had blunted his anger, and it had been foolish of him to think that the soul could have done anything to stop the forces that had torn the Conclave apart. He had, after all, been forced to watch as the mages and his fellow knights were killed, with none of them having been given anything close to a fighting chance to defend themselves. His anger was only blunted, however, and as he sat in silence, its nature changed. "You should have let me die with them," Thaddeus said at last. "To what end, Brother Thaddeus?" the soul asked. "Haven't I made it clear that you are still needed?" "Another can find the Wanderer as well as I. My place was dying beside my brothers, dying to defend what I swore an oath to protect. You had no right to intervene." "No right? No right? Brother Thaddeus, do you know what I am without the Conclave? Do you?" Thaddeus, surprised by the soul's sudden outburst, didn't answer. "I'll tell you what I am. Nothing. Without the mages and their spells, I will diminish. Oh, it won't happen all at once. Me being here and speaking to you should be proof of that. But it will happen. And once I am gone, there will be nothing of the Conclave left. Everything it ever stood for will be forgotten. As the soul of the Conclave, and as perhaps the lone entity in the entire kingdom certain of the Wanderer's existence, I could not allow that. And so I spared you, the last of the Holy Knights, in the hopes that everything will not be forgotten." The soul grew quiet, studying Thaddeus with eyes that Thaddeus only then just realized glowed with a piercing blue light. "Will you do what I asked, Brother Thaddeus? Will you find the Wanderer? Or should I lock the door of this cell and leave you to rot, waiting for an execution that may never come?" An execution that may never come. The dark powers that had destroyed the Conclave and seized control of the kingdom, demonic magic users who called themselves the Order of the Crimson Serpent, had had a month now to execute Thaddeus, and they never had. They hadn't forgotten about him completely. He was still given food and water, and there was always a guard posted outside the cell. But it was clear that his death had ceased to be a priority for them. Leaving him to rot would serve the same ends for them as a public execution, particularly if they had encountered little resistance following the fall of the Conclave. "If I don't go, the deaths of the others will be meaningless. I owe it to them to at least try and do as the soul asks." "I'll do it," Thaddeus said. "I'll go." The soul smiled. "I knew you would. Where should I go once I leave here?" "Head east, perhaps back to the village where you were raised. From there I cannot say." "How long will I have?" "That's anyone's guess. Not even I can predict what the Order of the Crimson Serpent's next move will be. Be as quick in your search as you can, but also be thorough. No credible lead should be ignored, no matter how small." "That could take me months." "It could. Let's just pray that it doesn't. Thaddeus stood and moved toward the door of the cell. When he nudged it, it swung outward slightly, creaking on its hinges. Outside, he could hear the guard snoring. Turning back for a moment, he said, I have never been much for prayer, you know. Well, the soul said, it's never too late to start. Good luck, Brother Thaddeus. Thaddeus smiled. Luck, he said. Now there's something I have always had faith in. He turned to go. Wait, the soul said. Thaddeus looked back. Make your way to the armory on your way out. I left something for you there that may prove invaluable. Like what? The soul gave its mischievous smile. You'll know it when you see it. And with that, the soul vanished. So there you go, everyone. That is chapter 1 of The Divided Night. I know there was some stumbles there when I was reading. I hope none of them are too bad. I don't know if I'm going to read a chapter a week or if I'm going to wait between videos or what I'm going to do. But I think that Ethan's idea was an excellent one. Let me know what you think if you are so inclined. And in the meantime, you all have a good rest of your week, a good weekend, and stay tuned for further adventures from Thaddeus Alvarem in The Divided Night. Goodbye for now. This is Mad Dog signing off.